This man gave his girlfriend a necklace, but 2 years later she screams when she realizes what's inside. Anna and Terry were a couple of friends that began dating after knowing each other for 4 years. After dating for a year, Terry decided to do something special for Anna and began brainstorming ideas. Although he wasn't the type of guy to make things with his hands, he wanted to try something new and do something very special. After thinking about it, he decided to make a necklace for Anna. On their anniversary, he handed his girlfriend the present and she loved it. Anna wore the necklace every single day, but she didn't know the secret that Terry hid with the gift. Terry knew that if Anna ever found out, it would change their relationship forever. Terry decided to travel, but was scared that he may not be able to sneak the necklace through airport security. When Anna finally found out what the necklace was hiding, she broke down in tears. Part 2 coming soon. This man gave his girlfriend a necklace, but 2 years later she screams when she realizes what's inside. Part 2. While Terry and Anna were in Scotland, Terry began to worry about the object that was inside of her necklace. Terry decided that he was going to show her what was inside, but wasn't quite sure how to get it off of her neck. He waited until they visited the northern Scotland caves, but was scared that she would never look at him the same after finding out what was inside. Terry asked if he could borrow her necklace, but what happened next is so shocking you will not believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will scan your palm and tell you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. Terry opened the necklace and asked Anna if she would marry him. Anna realized that the ring was inside the necklace the entire time and immediately said yes. The couple had to cancel their wedding due to COVID, but will hopefully get married soon. A boy makes one last request to his doctor before surgery, then his parents find out and are shocked. Jackson was a young boy who was born with a cyst on his brain at birth. Ever since he was born, Jackson has spent a ton of time in the hospital getting tests ran on him by doctors. Instead of being able to hang out with his friends at the playground, Jackson has had to spend his time inside the hospital getting MRIs and CAT scans. Although Jackson was a pro when it came to surgery, he had a big one coming up soon and was very nervous. When it was time for Jackson's big surgery, the doctor made him say goodbye to his parents and wheeled him back to the operating room. The nurses got Jackson's IV hooked up properly, and right before they went to put him to sleep, he waved over the doctor. Jackson decided to ask his doctor for one last request, and without asking Jackson's parents, he decided he was gonna do what the child asked of him. Part 2 coming soon. A boy makes one last request to his doctor before surgery, then his parents find out and are shocked. Part 2. When Jackson was ready, his parents said goodbye and let the nurses take him into the operating room. As the nurses set up Jackson's IV, he knew what to expect since he had been through it so many times before. Once everything was ready for his surgery, Jackson decided to wave over the doctor. Jackson asked the doctor for one last request, and although he normally didn't do this type of thing, he agreed. The doctor asked his staff to bring in a smaller operating table as well, and what happened next is so shocking you will not believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will scan your palm and tell you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. After the surgery, the doctor called in Jackson's family, but they were shocked by what they saw. The doctor said that the little boy asked him to do a surgery on his bear as well, and that's exactly what he did. She only wanted his money, so he got the ultimate payback on her wedding day. Dino was an extremely hardworking man that worked at a local oil factory. He made a ton of money, but instead of showing it off, he invested in local properties. The only thing missing in Dino's life was the woman of his dreams until he fell in love and eventually got engaged. None of his friends liked his fiancée Andrea because she was extremely self-centered. When Dino finally left town, he gave Andrea his credit card but noticed that she racked up a ton of money on it. Dino wanted to know what she was doing when he was gone, so he flew home early and found her cheating on him. He decided to kick Andrea out, but a week later he found his classic car trashed. Dino was extremely upset but knew he had to wait for the right time to strike back. Dino eventually found out that Andrea was marrying a new man and began plotting his revenge. Part 2 coming soon. She only wanted his money, so he got the ultimate payback on her wedding day. Part 2. After kicking Andrea out of his house, Dino returned the following week to find that she destroyed his car. Dino was extremely upset but knew that he had to wait for the right time to strike back. A few months later, Dino found out that Andrea was getting married to a new woman and knew that it was his time to strike and get the ultimate revenge. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will scan your palm and tell you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. Dino wrote her a letter with a picture of his wrecked car, a picture of her wedding dress, and a ketchup packet saying red on white. Dino found out where Andrea was buying her dress and paid them so they would make her dress red. Dino ordered red lipstick and had it sent to Andrea's house to freak her out. On her actual wedding day, Andrea was a basket case while Dino sat back and laughed. A rich girl steals money from a homeless man for years until one day he gets the ultimate revenge. When Francis was only 6 years old, his parents abandoned him, leaving him homeless in the streets of Canada. Francis was in and out of foster care his entire life, but when he got to high school, he began to abuse drugs and alcohol. Decades later, he was still homeless, but he began to try to get his life on track. He would beg on the streets for 16 hours a day with hopes that one day he could get enough money to move into an apartment. He saved all of his money in a jar that he kept with him at all times until one day something strange happened. One day when he woke up, there was a little bit of money missing from the night before. No matter how much money he saved, every day when he would wake up, there was a little bit missing. One night he pretended to go to sleep while he left his money out in the open. About an hour later, he heard a girl stealing his money, but you won't believe what he did next. Part 2 coming soon. A rich girl steals money from a homeless man for years until one day he gets the ultimate revenge. Part 2. Francis jumped up and ran after the woman, but unfortunately she was too fast and got away. He was extremely mad because he could tell that she was wearing designer clothes, yet she was still stealing from him. Francis decided to not back down and that this may be his opportunity to end her career. The next morning, he went into the local McDonald's he slept outside of and told the manager the entire thing. The manager checked the security camera footage and luckily it caught everything on camera. Francis took the footage to the police, who told him there was not enough evidence to arrest her, so he decided to take matters into his own hands. Before I tell you, I just discovered a brand new app where you can prank your friends by changing their text messages. Click the link in my bio to try it out for free. A lawyer helped Francis sue the girl and he got $400,000 and is no longer homeless. Police find the missing remains of a boy in concrete but couldn't believe who did it. Evan was a 3-year-old boy who went missing for months before police received a phone call from a concerned landlord. Police immediately called the boy's father and met with the landlord, who led them all around the back of one of his properties. When they all reached the back of the house, they immediately got hit with a repulsive smell coming from inside the wall. The landlord immediately began hitting the back of the house with a sledgehammer, trying to break through the wall. After a half hour of trying to break through the wall, Evan's father gasped when he saw what was inside. Everybody standing around looked inside the hole and saw the 3-year-old boy's body decomposing inside the concrete. The authorities started their investigation to figure out who could have done this to such a nice little boy. What police discovered is so shocking you won't believe it. Part 2 coming soon. Police find the missing remains of a boy in concrete but couldn't believe who did it. Part 2. After the landlord broke the wall down on the backside of the house, Evan's father saw his son's decomposing body on the inside of the wall. Police immediately decided to take matters into their own hands to figure out who could have done this to a 3-year-old boy. Police immediately began questioning everyone that could have had contact with the little boy, but what they discovered left them speechless. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will scan your palm and tell you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. Police discovered that the man who did such a horrible thing to the little boy was actually his mother's new boyfriend. The security system at the house caught the boyfriend taking the little boy and cementing him inside the wall. Thankfully, he's serving life in prison. A husband leaves his wife at 8 months pregnant, then 5 weeks later she finds this in the oven. Amanda was a woman that lived in a nice neighborhood with amazing neighbors and a husband that loved her very much. The best thing was that Amanda was finally pregnant after trying for over 3 years. The couple renovated their entire house with plans of having an amazing future together, but Amanda could never have expected what happened next. When Amanda was 36 weeks pregnant, her husband informed her that he was leaving unexpectedly and left her struggling to pay the bills. Amanda called her friend Anna to come over, but when she arrived, she saw how sad she was and knew she had to do something. She drug Amanda out of bed and took her to a live television set where she could talk about her betrayal on live TV. On live TV, they had Amanda look at a screen where she saw 2 large men enter her house. She was extremely embarrassed that the entire world saw the mess inside her house and thought her ex may have something to do with it. One of the men opened Amanda's oven, and when she saw what was inside, she started crying. Part 2 coming soon. A husband leaves his wife at 8 months pregnant, then 5 weeks later she finds this in the oven. Part 2. Amanda watched on the screen behind her as a few men began walking through her house. She began to feel extremely embarrassed and wondered if her friend was setting her up to embarrass her on live TV. After the men walked through her house, one of them proceeded to walk up to her oven and open it. As the man proceeded to open it, what Amanda saw lying inside is so shocking you won't believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered the only way for you to go live with under 1,000 followers. Click the link in my bio to download Bigo Live, and now you can go live whenever you want. Lying inside Amanda's oven was a stack of money that the radio station gave her to help with her financial situation. Amanda's friend wrote into the station asking to put her on the Give Back segment. The radio station also gave her a bunch of baby products and cleaned her house for 6 months. A 6-year-old boy went missing, but when rescuers find him, they are shocked by what they find lying beside him. A young boy from Tennessee named Caden Leach went missing one day while he was playing outside by himself. His parents never restricted him from playing outside because he always seemed to listen and never left the property without asking first. One evening, it started to get dark outside, so his parents decided to go out front and look for him. After looking for Caden for 15 minutes out front and not finding him, his parents decided to come inside the house and see if he may have come in unnoticed. After not being able to find him, his parents became very worried and alerted their local police department about the situation. The very next day, over 100 local people decided to help look for Caden, and they set up a local search in the forest behind their house. Thankfully, around 3:30 the next day, Caden was located by the search team and he didn't seem to have any injuries. When authorities found Caden, they saw something small lying next to him, and after getting a closer look, they were frozen and shocked by what it was. Part 2 coming soon. A 6-year-old boy went missing, but when rescuers find him, they are shocked by what they find lying beside him. Part 2. When the rescuing team finally found Caden, they were extremely happy that he was not hurt. They made sure to check him for cuts, bruises, and frostbite since it was extremely cold throughout the night. After having him checked out by EMT, police found a small dark object on the ground next to him and were extremely shocked by what it was. Before I continue, I just discovered the only way for you to go live with under 1,000 followers. Click the link in my bio to download Bigo Live for free, and now you can go live whenever you want. Police noticed that the small object laying next to the boy was actually his pet terrier Chula. The dog stayed with the boy the entire time he was missing until rescuers showed up to make sure he was safe. The brave companion stayed with Caden the entire night and made sure to protect him at all costs. Caden was taken to a nearby hospital where he was examined by doctors and eventually released back to his family. This woman suffered from headaches for years until doctors found something in her head that will shock you. Yasmin was a young girl who loved to travel the world and see as much as she possibly could. Yasmin traveled through China as a teenager, and after getting married, she traveled through the beautiful Bahamas with her new husband. As Yasmin began to grow up, she took her children all over the globe so they could experience traveling too. Yasmin's most recent trip was going to Mexico, but little did she know it would turn her life upside down. On the first day of the trip, she woke up with a severe headache but took some Advil and started her day. Yasmin's headache never went away, and after a few months she began to get them every single day. After enough time passed, Yasmin decided to go see her doctor to find out what was really going on. Yasmin's doctor took a scan of her brain, and what he found living inside is so shocking you won't believe it. Part 2 coming soon. This woman suffered from headaches for years until doctors found something in her head that will shock you. Part 2. Yasmin decided to go to her doctor to figure out why she was having headaches every single day. After scheduling an appointment, she went to her doctor's and waited to be called. After finally being called, she explained to the doctor what was going on, and he told her he immediately had to do brain scans. The doctor immediately took scans of Yasmin's brain, and what he saw in the scans made his jaw drop. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that helps you edit your videos so you can become TikTok famous. Click the link in my bio to try it out for free. The results showed that there was a foreign body living inside Yasmin's head. Yasmin had a tapeworm in her brain that was growing with every minute it was inside her head. Doctors discovered that the tapeworm got into her bloodstream and they had to remove all 8 of them. After removing the worms from her brain, she made a full recovery. An 8-year-old boy disappears every night until one day his dad secretly follows him and learns the saddening truth. Ken was an 8-year-old boy whose father noticed that his actions and behavior began to seem a tad suspicious. His dad picked up on his suspicious behavior when he noticed that his son was spending hours every single day outside by himself. Ken's dad always trusted him, but after a while he began to become suspicious about what his son was truly doing for hours a day. His curiosity finally got the best of him, and one day he decided to wake up early and follow Ken when he left. When Ken left the house, his dad immediately followed him in the car as he walked over a mile through their neighborhood. Ken's dad watched him for over 2 miles until he finally stopped. After a few minutes, his dad saw exactly what he was doing every single night and began to cry when he realized the truth. Part 2 coming soon. An 8-year-old boy disappears every night until one day his dad secretly follows him and learns the saddening truth. Part 2. Ken's dad knew that he had to follow his son to figure out what he was truly doing every day when he disappeared. As soon as his son left, he followed Ken and noticed that he was walking their family dog for over a mile away from their house. He then watched as his 8-year-old son pulled dog food out of his backpack and began feeding a few stray dogs. Ken's dad uploaded this picture to social media without telling him, and after it went viral, what he did is so shocking you won't believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that'll turn your phone or tablet into a DJ pad. Click the link in my bio to try it out for completely free. The 8-year-old boy began to receive donations from people all over the world. The boy took the money that he earned and opened a non-profit, non-kill animal shelter. Thanks to Ken, hundreds of dogs live a happier, healthier life. A teacher forgets to hang up phone, then mom overhears something that leaves her disgusted. In 2015, a mother named Beth received a phone call from her daughter's teacher at school. When Beth answered the phone, the teacher informed Beth that her daughter was struggling at school but was extremely polite. The teacher talked with Beth about a few options to help her daughter improve in school and was very positive about the entire situation. Beth discussed with the teacher for about 15 minutes before thanking her for her time and hanging up. Approximately 2 minutes later, Beth received a notification saying that she received a voicemail from that same teacher. Beth decided to listen to the voicemail and immediately realized that the teacher had forgot to hang up the phone after their previous conversation. Beth listened to the entire voicemail, and what she heard the teacher say left her absolutely disgusted. Part 2 coming soon. A teacher forgets to hang up phone, then mom overhears something that leaves her disgusted. Part 2. While speaking to her daughter's teacher, she explained that her 5th grade daughter had Turner syndrome, which allows for her to have delayed response in her learning abilities. The teacher seemed to be very understanding and promised to help the girl one-on-one. Beth was extremely relieved that her daughter's teacher wanted to help so much, but when she hung up the phone, she received a notification for a voicemail. When Beth began listening to the voicemail, she immediately knew that the teacher forgot to hang up and recorded the entire thing. But before I tell you what the teacher said, I just discovered a brand new app that scans your palm and tells you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. Beth listened as she heard her daughter's teacher laughing about her daughter and mocking her. The teacher even began mocking Beth and her daughter's physical appearance. Beth decided to sue the school district and homeschool her daughter. A father buries his son, then days later gets a creepy call from the grave. Frank Kerrigan was an 82-year-old man from California that was always worried about his son, who was also named Frank. On a beautiful Friday morning, Frank awoke to multiple phone calls on his cell phone. When Frank finally answered the phone, he realized that it was the coroner's office calling him to let him know that his son had died. He learned from the officers that his 57-year-old son was found behind a Verizon store dead. Shocked and heartbroken, Frank asked if he should come down to verify that the body was indeed his son. They told Frank there was no need since they verified through his fingerprints. Frank drove down to collect the body and spent over $20,000 on his son's funeral. After the ceremony, Frank went home and a few weeks later received a phone call that left him speechless. Part 2 coming soon. A father buries his son, then days later he gets a creepy call from the grave. Part 2. Frank was devastated at the loss of his 57-year-old son, but despite the sadness, he still spent $20,000 on his funeral. Frank went home and began to grieve over the loss of his 57-year-old son that he loved very much when his phone rang. Frank didn't feel like talking to anybody, but for some strange reason felt like he had to pick up the phone. What the person on the other side of the phone told Frank is so shocking you will not believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will scan your palm and tell you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. The man on the other side of the phone was Frank's best friend Bill, and he told Frank that his son was alive. The family immediately contacted officials to let them know that Frank Jr. was alive. Frank and his family were extremely happy that he was still alive. A police dog gets a hit on a teacher's car, then demands teacher to open her trunk. Amanda was a teacher from Virginia that had been teaching young kids for many years. After the bell rang for 4th period, the halls began to fill up with students after Amanda grabbed her lunch and headed back to her classroom. After Amanda ate her lunch, her classroom began to fill up with many students, so she started the day's lecture. Amanda was a great teacher who was very compassionate, slightly assertive, and loved by all of her students. At the end of class, Amanda finally sat down to relax when an officer stormed in her classroom demanding she come with him. He told Amanda that they were doing random searches in the parking lot when a canine got a hit on her car. The officer told Amanda to follow him out to the parking lot so she could pop the trunk of her car, and what happened next is so shocking you won't believe it. Part 2 coming soon. A police dog gets a hit on a teacher's car, then demands teacher to open her trunk. Part 2. A police officer barged into Amanda's classroom and caught her off guard. Amanda's heart began to pound when the officer told her that they were doing random searches in the parking lot and got a hit on her car. Amanda followed the police officer out to the parking lot where he demanded she popped her trunk immediately. Fearing that she may be getting framed, Amanda began to shake as she opened up her car's trunk, but what happened next is so shocking you won't believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered the only way for you to go live with under 1,000 followers. Click the link in my bio to download BeGo Live, and now you can go live whenever you want. After opening up her trunk, Amanda heard another officer pull up behind her. When she turned around, she saw her boyfriend, Officer Brandon. He immediately bent down on one knee and proposed to her. Amanda said yes and was extremely relieved. A cop playing Fortnite gets an in-game message from a missing 15-year-old, but what happens next will shock you. Officer Gary Strebel was a police officer from New York who had been a cop for over 3 years. One day while Gary was at the police department, he received a phone call from parents that seemed to be extremely panicked. Gary talked to the parents about what was going on, and they told him that their 15-year-old son had gone missing. After talking to the parents, he immediately assigned himself to the case and drove to their house. He talked to the parents and decided to look through their son's room for clues. After searching the teen's room, he realized his cell phone was gone, but the teen's laptop was wide open. The cop immediately went to the laptop and noticed that the boy had Fortnite running. What the cop later discovered about the boy's disappearance is so shocking you won't believe it. Part 2 coming soon. A cop playing Fortnite gets an in-game message from a missing 15-year-old, but what happens next will shock you. Part 2. When the cop opened the boy's laptop, he noticed that the very popular video game Fortnite was actively running. As the police officer continued to look at the boy's laptop, he noticed that he had the app Discord open and was actively logged into his account. Officer Gary was a huge gamer himself, so he actively knew how to use Discord. The officer decided to use the boy's laptop to sign into his own Discord account and send the teen a friend request. But before I tell you what happened next, I just discovered a brand new app that will tell you who has a secret crush on you. If you want to see if your crush likes you back and stalks you on Instagram, then hit the link in my bio and download Crush to try it out for free. He immediately got his friend request accepted and messaged the boy. The officer told the boy to come home, and after a few hours he arrived home safely. A thief looks inside a wallet that he just stole and sees something that makes him immediately go to the cops. 19-year-old Connor Dotz was hanging out with a few of his friends around 10 p.m. at night. While Connor and his friends were hanging out, he saw another man walk past and then immediately told his friends that he had to go. Little did Connor's friends know that he was actually following the man with plans of attacking him. Connor followed the man for about 5 minutes before hitting him in the head and knocking him out. Connor took the man's phone, jacket, and wallet before heading back to his own house. Connor ran back to his house as fast as he could and was extremely eager to see what he got. When Connor got back to his house, he began checking all of the items that he stole and began to get hit with guilt. Connor opened up the man's wallet, and what he found inside made him immediately call the police. Part 2 coming soon. A thief looks inside a wallet that he just stole and sees something that makes him immediately go to the cops. Part 2. After Connor robbed the man in the alley, he immediately ran back to his house. After Connor had a few minutes to think about what he just did, he began to feel guilty for his actions. Connor decided to open up the man's wallet, but he found something inside that is so shocking he immediately went to the police. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will scan your palm and tell you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. Connor found an ID card inside the man's wallet that he just robbed, saying he was autistic. Connor immediately drove himself to the police department, where he told police he was scum and turned himself in. The judge immediately found Connor guilty for his disgusting crime and sentenced him to prison. An old woman screams at a kid selling candy, then one man decides he's had enough. Two siblings from Rolling Heights, California decided that they wanted to start earning a little extra money. For the siblings startup, they tossed around a few ideas but finally decided on starting a candy business. The siblings decided to try to buy a box of candy each and sell it outside their local market. On some days, the boys would sell a ton of candy, and on others, they would only sell 1 or 2 pieces. Everything seemed to be going okay for the siblings until one day an elderly lady approached them. She became extremely aggressive and started verbally assaulting them as they were doing no harm. The kids immediately became silent and didn't say a word as the old woman embarrassed them in front of the store. As she was yelling, one man overheard her verbal attacks and decided he had enough, but what he did next is so shocking you will not believe it. Part 2 coming soon. An old woman screams at a kid selling candy, then one man decides he's had enough. Part 2. As the kids stood out front the store to sell candy, an old woman approached them in a very aggressive way. She walked up to the boys and began screaming at them that what they were doing was illegal and she was going to call the cops if they didn't stop. A man named Jay Lopez walked up to the woman and decided he had enough when he overheard her embarrassing these kids. Jay walked over to put a stop to the situation, and what he did next made the woman's jaw drop. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will scan your palm and tell you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. Jay told the old woman that she had no right to talk to anybody like that, especially not kids. Jay told the kids that he would buy their entire box of candy and handed them $80. A 4-year-old revealed a secret to his teacher that saved his father's life. Nancy was a 54-year-old preschool teacher from Iowa that loved her students and would do anything for them. One day, Nancy entered her classroom after greeting all of her students and noticed that one of them seemed to be a little off. The little boy's name was Camden, and he seemed to be extremely sad on that particular day. The extremely caring teacher took the time out of her day to ask the boy what was going on and figure out why he was so sad. After breaking down crying, Camden began to mumble a few words to his teacher. Camden told Nancy something about his father that absolutely broke her heart and made it impossible for her to hold back tears. After finding out the truth about Camden's father, Nancy knew she had to do something. What Nancy decided to do next is so shocking you will not believe it. Part 2 coming soon. A 4-year-old reveals a secret to his teacher that saved his father's life. Part 2. Nancy noticed that Camden seemed to be extremely depressed and sad while he was at school. She decided to ask him what was wrong, and that's when Camden began explaining everything to her. He told Nancy that his father had a life-threatening disease known as kidney disease. The 4-year-old told his teacher that his dad was getting worse and worse every day and could die from the condition. Nancy decided that she had to do something, and what she did changed their lives forever. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will scan your palm and tell you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. Nancy went to the doctor and got tested to find out if she was a match for Camden's father's kidney. After verifying she was a match, she immediately underwent surgery and donated her kidney to Camden's father to help save his life. A bank robber aims at 2 scared kids, not knowing their dad is a trained soldier. On a normal Friday morning, a bank robber decided that he was going to rob a local Bank of America. When the bank robber entered the building, he immediately approached one of the bank tellers with a weapon. The bank robber instructed all of the civilians inside the bank to lay face down, and he took a bank teller to the back to grab him a ton of cash. One by one, the robber went through all of the bank teller's cash boxes and made the bank tellers fill his bags up with cash. All of the civilians were terrified, but listened to what the robber said until he turned around and pointed his weapon at 2 young kids. The young boy's father, Eddie, saw the robber do this and knew he had to leap into action. Since Eddie was an ex-soldier, he waited for the robber to leave and followed him outside, but what happens next is so shocking you won't believe it. Part 2 coming soon. A bank robber aims at 2 scared kids, not knowing their dad is a trained soldier. Part 2. Eddie watched as the bank robber began to make all of the bank tellers fill his bags up with cash. The bank robber turned around and pointed his weapon at Eddie's 2 sons who were laying on the ground, which made Eddie panic. His fatherly instincts immediately kicked in, and he knew that he had to do something to protect his 2 kids. Eddie waited for the robber to leave the building before chasing him down, but what happened next is so shocking you won't believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will scan your palm and tell you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. Eddie chased down the robber until he put his weapon in Eddie's face. Eddie used his training to immediately tackle the man. He was able to secure the money and weapon until the police arrived to arrest the man. A 6-year-old boy couldn't speak a word, then his dentist makes a startling discovery. Mason Motts was only 10 days old when he had a medical emergency because he suffered from a brain aneurysm. The young boy never developed the ability to speak, and after going to therapy, was diagnosed with a rare condition causing him to develop at a slower rate. Mason's parents tried their absolute best to communicate with him and picked up on small sounds that he would make. His parents only wanted the best for him and made sure he attended all of his medical appointments. One day, Mason's parents took him to his pediatric dental appointment for his 6-month checkup. The dentist spent a lot of time getting to know Mason before she decided that it was time to perform his dental exam. When the dentist finally performed the boy's dental exam, she looked inside his mouth and saw something that was so shocking her jaw dropped. Part 2 coming soon. A 6-year-old boy couldn't speak a word, then his dentist makes a startling discovery. Part 2. Mason was taken to his dentist for a routine exam where she made sure to take x-rays of the inside of his mouth. After taking the x-rays, the dentist decided that she had to remove a few of Mason's teeth. When the dentist asked Mason to open up his mouth, what she saw inside is so shocking you will not believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that will tell you who your celebrity lookalike is, and I guess mine's this guy. Click the link in my bio to find out who your celebrity lookalike is. The doctor noticed that the band of tissue under Mason's tongue was shorter than the average human. She noticed that the tissue was connected to the tip of his tongue, meaning he could not move it freely. The dentist immediately performed surgery and sent him home to recover. On the way home, Mason was able to talk for the first time ever and thankfully made a miraculous recovery. You should never eat sushi, and this is why. A man from China was addicted to eating sushi and would eat it almost every day. One day the man woke up and went to his doctor complaining of stomach aches and itchy skin. After seeing that the man was in excruciating pain, the doctors decided to run multiple tests. The doctors took a full body scan to see if there was anything going on inside the man's body. When the doctors got the results, they were absolutely shocked by what they saw. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that helps you edit your videos so you can become TikTok famous. Click the link in my bio if you want to become famous too. After the doctors got the man's scan back, they immediately noticed a bunch of small dots all over his x-ray. The doctors discovered that these small dots were actually tapeworms the man got from eating sushi. Since sushi is not cooked, the worms transferred from the food into his body and can live for years and get multiple feet long. A bully poured super glue in her hair, but what she does next will shock you. Hannah Combs was a 15-year-old girl who wasn't very fond of school but always tried to do her best. One day at school, while Hannah was standing around with a group of friends, a bully ran up to her and poured super glue in her hair, but he only got suspended. Hannah suffered severe first-degree burns on her head and had to shave off more than half of her hair. Hannah's parents were furious that the boy got away with this, so they made an online Facebook group to support Hannah. A local hairstylist helped Hannah get a brand new haircut, but what happened next is so shocking you won't believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that tells you who your celebrity lookalike is, and I guess mine's this guy. Click the link in my bio to try it out for free. Local law enforcement made the bully apologize to Hannah publicly and pay for all of her hospital bills. Here's some unusual beauty standards from around the world. Neck rings are a practice that have been used by cultures in Africa and Asia for thousands of years. Neck rings can weigh up to 11 pounds and are placed on a baby's neck around the age of 2. The neck rings will be increased every single year until the woman reaches adulthood, where her neck will be seen as beautiful. The neck rings don't actually make the neck longer, but actually crush the woman's collarbones, pushing her shoulders down, giving it the effect. After the rings have been put onto the women's necks and legs, they can't be taken off. If the women decide to take them off, their neck muscles are so weak that they may collapse and cause them to suffocate to death. This is why you should never drink too much water. In 2014, there was a 17-year-old football player that had practice almost every day after school. One day during practice, he began to get extreme cramps in his legs, so his coach recommended that he go and drink some water. The teen was extremely thirsty, so he went and drank 2 gallons of water and 2 gallons of Gatorade. After drinking all of the water, the boy began to feel extremely sick, so the coach called his mom to pick him up. The boy's mother took him home, where he climbed into bed because he was exhausted. A few hours later, his mom went to check on him, but what she discovered is so shocking you won't believe it. But before I tell you, I just discovered a brand new app that tells you who your celebrity lookalike is, and I guess mine's this dude. If you want to find who your celebrity lookalike is, click the link in my bio to try it out for free. When his mom entered his room, he laid there lifeless, so she rushed him to the hospital. When he arrived at the hospital, he was pronounced dead, and doctors said he died from too much water. A dentist put a recording device in his patient's tooth, but when he listened to the audio, he immediately called the police. After Dr. Rocker heard the recording, he immediately broke down in tears. He could hear little Julia screaming and crying on the other side. He immediately pulled out his phone to call the police, but then had to stop himself. He knew that if police found out he was the one that planted the recording device, he would go to jail. Instead, he decided to track the device with his phone, which led him to the middle of the desert. The doctor walked 2 miles in the hot weather until he finally noticed something. He found a trap door exactly where it said Julia was and decided to climb inside, but you won't believe what he found. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that lets you turn your phone or tablet into a DJ pad. Click the link in my bio to try it out for free. He found a man drilling out Julia's teeth, so he fought him off. Police soon arrived and arrested the man that turned out to be her father. This is how you can survive a zombie apocalypse. If there was ever a zombie apocalypse, the first step is to run as fast as you can. You'll want to have extremely high stamina and be able to keep your cardio increased for long periods of time. You'll want to find a large building made of metal or concrete and barricade yourself inside using furniture to block the entrance. After locking yourself inside, you'll want to avoid the supermarket because densely populated areas are exactly where zombies will attack. Try to avoid leaving your house until the zombies leave town, but if you absolutely have to, then make sure you try to fit in. In order to fit in with the zombies, you'll have to walk like them. To mask your human scent, you need to cover yourself in guts, and as a last resort, use any object you have to fight off the zombies. Also, I just discovered a brand new Walking Dead game where you can use characters from the show to fight off zombies. Click the link in my bio to try it out for free. This is why you should always listen to a fortune teller. On April 18th, 2020, there was a woman named Allison who was having extremely bad luck and she decided to go see a fortune teller. When Allison went to see the fortune teller, she explained to her all of the bad luck that she was currently experiencing. The couple talked for a while and the woman began to read Allison's fortune. The fortune teller told Allison that she foresaw something happening to her house that could put her life in danger. As soon as Allison got home, she packed up her things and moved into her parents' house, but what happened next is so shocking you won't believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered a brand new app that scans your palm and tells you your future. Click the link in my bio if you want to find out your future. Allison moved into her parents' house and just a week later there was a landslide from the house up on the hill behind her old one. Luckily, Allison moved in time and the fortune teller saved her life. This is why you should never fly a remote-controlled airplane. Paul Boucher was a man who worked for the federal government and loved to fly his remote-controlled airplanes whenever he had free time. One beautiful morning in July, Paul decided to go to a local park with all of his friends to fly their RC airplanes together. When he got to the park, he joined his friends and began to fly his remote-controlled airplane. After Paul finished flying his airplane, he stood around in a group of friends and began watching them fly theirs. As Paul's friend was flying his airplane, the sun was so bright he lost track of where it was, and what happened next is so shocking you won't believe it. Before I continue, I just discovered the only way for you to go live with under 1,000 followers. Click the link in my bio to download BeGo Live, and now you can go live whenever you want. Paul's friend lost control of the airplane and it came crashing down, hitting Paul in the head. The airplane was so big that it killed Paul upon impact. This is why you should never get a haircut. In 2019, there was a man named Ethan from New York who would get his haircut at least once a week. Every Friday when Ethan would get off work, he would immediately drive himself to his barber shop where he would wait to get his haircut. On a normal Friday afternoon, he went to his barber and sat down in the barber chair. After about 10 minutes, the barber was shaving the sides of Ethan's head when he nicked his ear and Ethan began to bleed. Ethan didn't think much of it and went home, but the next morning his ear was so swollen that he went to the hospital. But before I tell you what happened next, I just discovered a way for you to go live with under 1,000 followers. Click the link in my bio to download BeGo Live, and now you can go live whenever you want. The doctor told Ethan that his ear was infected and he had to immediately perform surgery on him. The doctor had to remove Ethan's entire ear, but luckily he survived the infection.